Suzanne LaGrande, and this is the Shaman's Notebook. Today, my guest is Jane DeForest, who is a visual artist, psychic intuitive, and motivational speaker. We are in times of a lot of change happening all over the world, and some of the things that you deal with love, illness, career, job changes, deep loss these are things that we're all experiencing. I'm wondering if you would talk a little bit about how you work with people to bring clarity to some of these big life challenges that we're all facing at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm really happy to be here. Um, yeah, so from my own shamanic training, I understand that all illness starts in the subtle realms. And from the subtle realms, I can see what's going on with people emotionally and what ancestors are there, what their spiritual allies are doing, if they're in alignment with their own spiritual guidance. So I start with the subtle realm, and how I access that is through my own natural intuitive ability, how I've been trained both in a shamanic way and with a remote viewing, which is a technical term. It's a whole technique. Um, and a technique that I've created myself, which is using my artwork. And I use my artwork to draw what I visually see, hear, know, intuit. So there's many different types of intuition, and I document that on a drawing when I'm with a client. As well, my hand seems to draw things, and I notice that this is something I can teach to people. So it seems that it's a skill we have, that we sort of leak intuitive information. Um, the Freudian slip might be an excellent way to explain that. So I draw, and when I draw, the drawing informs me. And it's very accurate. When I do a reading with someone, I'm looking for accuracy. So I'd like to be within 80 to 95% accurate when I'm working with a client. I spend the first several minutes ascertaining whether I've achieved that or not. The client determines it. And if I can't achieve that, I'll say thank you very much and give them their money back. I don't know too many people that do that. It takes a certain amount of guts to put myself on the line every single time. Um, I don't, I mostly can see people once in a while. I can't, and there's different reasons for that. And frankly, sometimes I don't want to. I'm merging my consciousness with people, so sometimes but most of the time, everybody's lovely and people are on their spiritual path in different stages of searching. So really, it's an honor for me to be able to work with people, to be able to see their ancestors on the other side, to be able to communicate with their animals, um, to be able to illuminate the path for them. I have had several near-death type experiences, so I'm pretty clear that my karma is affected by everything I do. So I'm very careful about making sure that my intentions are the very finest and that I'm really helping people. So um, that's the gist of how I work with my personal ability. And then I teach people how to access their own intuitive skills. So.
It's fascinating that you have developed, it sounds like your own creative methodology of, for fusing shamanic journeying with maybe a intuitive reading, and then also using art to present that or to bring that through as well as words. I'm wondering how did is that an accurate representation of what you're describing of how you work?
Definitely. Yes. Well done.
So I'm just curious, how did you come upon this? I mean, that's not part of a more shamanic
Mm-mm.
traditional training where oftentimes you do a formal journey involving, drum beats and, something, at least that's what I understand as a more traditional version of shamanic journeying, but it sounds like you're doing that through images.
Right.
So my question is, how did you come upon this methodology? How did you develop it?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I don't get this question very often, and it's fun to answer. So, two ways. One was through being an artist, and I spent many years being a professional artist, painting both my own work and murals. And the other way that I came to this was through remote viewing, which was created by um, a, uh, a very important American psychic whose name is Ingo Swann. And he was an artist too. So I've read most everything that he's written, and I consider him, although I never met him, in a way my own teacher, because I do look to him for guidance, even though he's in spirit. But as an artist, I found that I was able to achieve a meditative state of consciousness, separating from my analytical mind and entering a place, accessing a place that is uh, losing the individual self, so being nobody, but connecting to something greater than myself through painting, but it felt like love, so sort of being everything. So it was nobody and everything at the same time, and I know exactly where it happened, and I have the painting where it happened, and I have the part of the painting where it was the first time I experienced um, being being what I just described. I would say that I've heard other descriptions of people experiencing this through hallucinogens, through meditation, other ecstatic states. So once I realized that I could achieve this, I started to play with how to access it on a regular basis instead of having it happen to me. So when I was painting, it would take a couple hours, but I would be able to achieve this state. And then it took about an hour to come out of it. And I would have difficulty speaking when I was in these states because I wasn't in my conscious beta state of consciousness. So by accessing this opening, I was able to get information that was nonlinear, like what other people were thinking, um, potential futures. By the way, the future isn't writ. We do have free will. I really like to emphasize that. People feel so disempowered, especially in these times. We have free will, and we are incredibly powerful with our thoughts and intentions. Um, I'll come back to that. I want to finish this thought. So that's how I did it through my own personal journey through my artwork. And then remote viewing, which is a technique Ingo Swann created, he had experiences, and then he created what's called a protocol of how to achieve this, and started a government was hired by the government, and they called it remote viewing, and became a psychic spy. The program was called Stargate, I think, and so they would the Russians, by the way, were doing the same thing, and these Ingo Swann and military personnel were able to look at uh, physical installations. They were able to look at people and their motivations. They were at the once they formulated these techniques, were able to actually duplicate documents in file cabinets in the Kremlin. So it was very, very specific. So I took this technique, which is called well, there's different kinds, but this is control. It's called controlled remote viewing. So CRV for short. And there's a whole community about that if anybody's interested. There's Facebook sites and so forth, but it's controlled, which means it has a whole, I won't go into it, but it has very specific things, if you can imagine. It's military kind of thing. So it's sort of, so I learned this technique and then I made it my own, and I fused it with my arts. And it's what I teach people how to do. It's very easy to learn. The one of the aspects of this that's fascinating, it's telling in a sense of how complex we are, and we perceive ourselves to be so limited. That we, through drawing, we're able to get information that's much more complex as opposed to linear thought and verbal communication, which is in a line. So the drawing is pre-verbal. We draw before we write. So there's a way more information that we can access. So that was a complex way to do it. The one thing I wanted to add, and I know I want to try to, I tend to jump around, so I'm making myself finish complete thoughts. I do want to say, when I see people energetically, when I'm saying the word see in air quotes, so I'm perceiving them in a reading because I'm opening and they're opening. I don't like to do this I don't do this without permission. And I, don't do it in the grocery store when I'm shopping. I'm closed because it's too much to hear people's thoughts, and a lot, it's not like you're walking around a monastery. It's,
There's some people's thoughts you probably don't want to hear.
yeah, yeah. I can't unthink that, dang. When I see people that are being creative, I do want to say this, and it's not just drawing, it's people who are using their creative potential. It is as if people go from being small to large, anemic to healthy, dull to bright. And all those things are sort of things I perceive, know about the person. I really believe that when we are using that creative potential or being creative, that we're incredibly powerful. We are using all our cylinders. So between that and then focused intention, humans are way more powerful than we know, we're led to believe, or we're taught that we are.
So this is interesting. It seems to me that one of the things you're saying is that creativity is an ecstatic spiritual experience, or that it's a means to perhaps greater connection with the divine, or higher levels of intuition. Would you say that's is that what you are getting at with this?
Yeah, that's one. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. That's one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect of it is, I think that it's a power. So it's a power we can actually use. So yes, we can use it to access an aesthetic state. I mean, creativity in intimacy is one level of creativity, and certainly that's a way of reaching an ecstatic state. But it can also, that's receiving, but it can also be used to create something. Both, it doesn't have to be a painting, it can be an idea. So by using, for example, the ancient Egyptian priests used a type of knotting. I'm just going to give you a simple example. So in the physical realm, they're knotting a string or a piece of linen where they've written prayers, or we would call this magic, but we don't understand this because it's a form, it's an ancient form of, more like alchemy, of combining our consciousness, our creativity in a physical expression or creative expression in the physical, in the third dimension. We call it we don't know what to call it, but ancient cultures had a different way of thinking. So
Would
they would,
would sorry, I'm just wondering if the word I've heard the word sigil, for example,
right.
as this idea that you are putting a intention or positive wish into a physical thing that contains the energy of that.
That's right. Yeah. And so you could do that, or you can not, or you can do a painting or a sculpture. Uh, um, but somehow bringing this higher consciousness through your creativity is a very powerful and effective way to change things, to change this now. So actually what I've started to do, and I've felt directed to do this, I've invited a small group of people together to do intention work, to try to help birth this new age. We're in a vulnerable place right now. There's things, in my opinion, that are going sideways. What can one person do about it? It's only little old me, and we're being told we're a blight on the planet, and there's too many of us humans, and overpopulation, and that's not what I get from my spiritual allies. We are magical, amazing beings, and if we were taught to use energy in an effective way, um, if we were if we were taught how powerful we were, um, it would be a game changer. So I'm taking what I have, my consciousness, my focus, my art, and I'm helping to, with a small group of people, helping to pray for the earth, pray for birthing of the divine feminine, praying for peace, praying um, for awakening. So intending slash praying. So
You are also an animal communicator, and you've said that we're here to be a steward for nature. And I think that's really connected to what you just said about how powerful we could be and we are. What do you see that we could do that's powerful or that would move us towards a more hopeful future than perhaps many of us believe is, have believed is possible? If we feel like we're not powerful, we don't dream big, right?
yeah, I mean, um, well, there's lots of different things that we can do, but from a shamanic perspective, everything starts in the energetic realm first and then calcifies into the physical. So to answer your question, um, we need to work first energetically. So that's with our consciousness. And I think what I just said, in a way, mixing that with your intention and through some kind of a ritual. And I don't think it matters whether you're a Christian. I mean, when I look at people who are devout Christians, well, I don't get a lot of devout Christians in my practice, but I do have friends that are devout Christians because of taboos around psychic work. But people who are of the spirit, who are devoted to their spiritual life, whether they're in a particular religion or whether they've made up their own religion, or um, people are imbued with a much greater power, and the awareness that we are spirits having a physical experience is empowering, regardless of what flavor of religion you are. So that would be the first thing, knowing how powerful you are, and then bringing that energy into a focused manifestation,
Mhm.
whether in some kind of spiritual ritual practice. The ancients knew there were special times of the year, and the sun and the moon, that had focused ceremony. This isn't an accident. You know, now we can measure the electromagnetic field of the earth at different times of the year. It's greater at the equinoxes. Interestingly enough, these were some of the most important ceremonies: the solstice, the equinoxes, um, and then the moon, different cycles of the moon, the full moon and the new moon. We have a 28-day cycle. It's split by 14 and split again by 7. That's where we get our week. The ancients did, especially the great maternal cultures, when God was a great mother, a cosmic mother. These in these powerful matriarchal, which are communities and civilizations which are older than the short time we've had a patriarchy. These ceremonies were held at different stages of the moon, and it's my contention that the ancients weren't stupid, that they knew that their prayer work and their ritual and their ceremony had a greater effect if it was done at a new moon or a full moon, as opposed to some random Sunday. So, if you want to start, changing this reality, that's a great place to start. Those few things that I've said is realizing that the spark of the divine is within you. I do believe the Bible verse that says we are made in God's image is not that God is we really return the favor and made God in our image, and that God is a bipedal humanoid. Perhaps that we were made in God's image means that we are creators also, that we are baby creators, and that this is a force that we can use. We have free will, that we can focus this for the good. I mean, for heaven's sakes, there's so much dark energy on the planet right now. These energies know what they're doing, and have certainly. We've been educated to believe that this knowledge, this is taboo, it's evil, we shouldn't go near it. That's nonsense. I mean, we have throughout this planet, we have great temples, churches built on older temples and archaeological sites, and stone circles that align with these natural holidays of the sun and the moon, and they can actually change the electromagnetic fields of the earth by where they're placed, and they're all connected in a grid. There's a grid work we're called ley lines on the earth. This is a living system. This is called it's called the Gaia principle. Now, in the ancient world, it was the obvious knowledge that the Mother Earth is alive. All things are alive.
So perhaps we're witnessing the return of older magical practices and the efficacy of them, among other things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, the internet has brought us and unearthed for those people who are interested in investigating this ancient knowledge that has been hidden deep within mystery schools. And you couldn't get to it unless you were a man. You couldn't get to it unless you've been practicing it for 40, you were 40 years old, or you've been practicing for 40 years or whatever. And you were part of a system. Now, if you roll up your sleeves and do some investigation, it's very interesting what you can discover about these ancient mysteries that have power to them. The dark side, there's also a dark side to all this information, is that people are hypnotized by programming and distracted by nonsense. And I see people's souls being hijacked, by the way. There's a bit of hijacking going on here. So in a way, I'm so grateful that I'm so grateful that you've invited me to speak here. So in a way, I'm sort of hijacking this myself, and getting this message through to people is: you are amazing. You are a powerful. You are a little god or goddess, because within you is you've got creation within you, and you've got free will on how to use it. So please consider waking up and using your great and beautiful power for making a wonderful change in this world. Let's be the midwives of this new era for our grandchildren.
Mhm. I am Suzanne LaGrande, and this is the Shaman's Notebook. And today I've been speaking with psychic intuitive, shamanic healer, and visual artist Jane DeForest. If people want to find out more about your work and how to connect to you, where can they go?
Oh, thank you for asking. If you're interested in a session, I have in-person sessions at New Renaissance Bookshop in Portland, Oregon. I also do my sessions online, and it works very well because the information I'm gleaning is non-local, so it works fine over the internet. And I've written a book called Love Never Dies, uh, uh, and that's available both at my website and at Amazon. And that's probably the easiest way. But if you can't remember janesinspiration.com, just Google Jane DeForest and all my information will come up.
Great. And one other thing, I know that in addition to personal readings at New Renaissance, that you sometimes do events there as well via Zoom. Could you talk about some of the events that you might be doing this year?
Yeah, sure. I typically teach a couple of courses. One is I incorporate art in all of the things that I teach. So you don't have to be an artist, it could be doodling. Shamanic journey and art, where I take people on a guided journey, several journeys, including how to journey, soul retrieval, which is collecting parts and pieces of your soul that have been lost in trauma, and connecting to your spiritual allies, all very important in this time. Another course that I teach is intuition and art, and I teach how to access your information through the chakras. We have many, many different types of intuition. It's funny because it seems like we're taught we've got clairvoyance and clairsentience, and we've got empathy. We can feel people's empaths. But there's so much more. There's so many other. I mean, my husband is an amazing weather psychic. He can smell snow 3 days away. All people have all different kinds of intuitions.
Huh.
So I teach that. I have other courses I teach, like planting by the moon. I'm a gardener, and I just love the moon and different cycles. If you'd like to keep abreast of what I'm doing, please check on my website, or sometimes it's through New Renaissance, sometimes it's not. So
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the Shaman's Notebook today.
thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. It was nice to meet you.
I am Suzanne LaGrande, and this is the Shaman's Notebook. I bring you new perspectives on healing from energy medicine practitioners, shamans, intuitives, scientists, and psychics who are changing the way we think, feel, and heal. I'm Suzanne LaGrande, and you've been listening to the Shaman's Notebook. For more insights and adventures into healing, subscribe below and visit me at suzannelagrande.com.